That's your boy Gooch.
That is the homie Keys.
And this is the RogueHead Huddle with Gooch and Keys presented by RGR Football. Gooch, pay the bills.
Oh, we're going to have a good one tonight, ladies and gentlemen. Make sure you go back and check out. If you're new here, like, subscribe, bell notifications. Go back and look at all the previous RGR content. Make sure you tune in Mondays for the live stream after the games, where we do Q&A. There's Chief of the North Thursdays. Dan has film breakdown on Tuesdays and Thursdays. Obviously, we're here on Friday. Hit the RGR store. Let's buy some merchandise. Go to the Therese Paler website and get the All Juice t-shirts to support his thing, and take this walk with us, y'all. Take this walk. It's going to be fun. Toxic fans unite.
It will be. You know it. Speaking of toxic, I'm just going to go ahead and get this out of the way.
Yes, sir.
Get my Horace Grants on here. Some people flash their rings. Some people flash their semi-pro status. Me, I'm just going to put on the glasses, and that's going to be your proof to me that I'm smart and know what I'm talking about.
Put on the
just as much
HGs.
as the rest of that stuff.
That's what we're going to call them. We're going to call them the HGs, ladies and gentlemen, the HGs.
The Horace Grants, yep. All right, well, should we just... Oh, by the way, in case you haven't noticed, I don't know how you wouldn't, but I'm rocking No Shave November with my Kyle Orton here.
Got the No Shave November going. I also, although I don't have as full a nicer beard as Keys, you can tell I haven't shaved. So I'm all into it.
This is how we weed out how many of you guys became fans after Mahomes became the quarterback. You old timers will know what I'm talking about with the Kyle Orton. All right, so let's just get right to it. Thoughts on Monday night's win?
We were lucky. No, I'm going to start with that. Luck. There was a penalty at the end that shouldn't have been a penalty. It was a clean tackle instead of a face mask. Too many turnovers again. Mahomes doesn't look comfortable. I think he has PTSD. I think the Super Bowl has him shook because there are plenty of clean pockets that he ran away from. Something's wrong with that kid mentally. I think Sorensen should never see the field of play again, along with Ben Neiman. I don't care if you put Armani Watts, D.O.D., whoever this guy is you brought up from the practice squad, whoever the tight end is you just signed that does special teams, somebody that won't blow plays. I think that we'll get into this later. I think we were lucky to pull this out, and if we play like this against Green Bay, we'll be having a different conversation. What are your thoughts? Oh, before you get into that, I think Derek Gore is a beast. I think Bolton is the truth. Him and Gay together is going to be amazing for the years to come. I think Toxic Tyron has found his swagger. I think Ward is the same old Ward, and Snead might be rounding back into form. What do you think?
So this one, I think, is a hard one for someone who tries to be balanced, right? Because on the one hand, the defense clearly looked better. We had that interception by Willie right after Patrick's interception in the end zone was about as clutch as you can be. And there's no way you can excuse away that interception. Like there's no way you can diminish it. It was clutch, and it was a great job by Willie. It's his second interception in 2 weeks. Like, you can't diminish that at all. And the Chiefs had some good drives on defense, and yet there were still drives where they looked the exact opposite of unstoppable for an offense. Like, on defense, they looked like unable to stop anything. And so for at least a few drives, right? There were, if we're all honest, there were 2 or 3 drives that gave everyone some you talked about PTSD, some PTSD flashbacks. And so like it's kind of Jackal and Hyde, at this point. And I'm not going to diminish them and say it was the Giants offense. There's some truth on one hand that Saquon Barkley wasn't out there. Kenny Golladay wasn't out there. I think there were some other receivers that ended up missing the game. But, Ingram was still out there, and he's a pretty quick tight end, as I believe I said last week. And so, there's enough there. This is just kind of a mixed game for me for the defense. On the offense, it was even more Jackal and Hyde than it was for the defense, because you get down in the red zone and you're a few yards away and you have another turnover. On the flip side of that, it was another tipped ball, so it's not exactly like, Patrick was throwing it right into somebody's hands. And so, trying to keep it balanced there, but at the same time, run the ball, Andy. Run the freaking ball. You're in the red zone. You're close to the end zone. Run the ball. And it seemed to me, at least for like seemingly the first half, maybe more, that the Giants defensive coordinator just knew exactly what Andy was going to do. Like, they were playing the run and stopping the run when we were in the red zone, when we were going to run it. And then the very next play, they have 8 guys out in coverage, knowing that Andy's going to pass. So, like, at some point, you have to become self-aware enough as a coach to call some tendency breakers, because clearly, analytics department, it was all over what you were doing. And so it's like, and I think most of us know, if they try to run the ball and they get stuck, then a lot of times they don't get back to it, or it takes them a while to get back to it. And that was like, and that's another part of this offense is that first drive up to that point, they looked great. And then they came out again, and it's like everything that Patrick had done well in the first drive, like they had some really great stuff going on in the first drive. And everything that they had done in that first drive, it just went right out the window. And it went back to the way things were. They got away from the run. Patrick was leaving clean pockets. He was not throwing to wide open receivers. We were making costly penalties. And it's just like, it took a while to get back to, okay, the run game is working. Okay. Looking to the flats is working. And again, on one side, it was like, there was something like, this was like the most passes completed behind the line of scrimmage in a game, I think, since 2000. I might be saying that number wrong, but it's been like this was basically a record for passes behind the line of scrimmage with like 15 completions, I believe the number
since Alex Smith.
So, like, again, trying to stay balanced here. On the one hand, that means that at some point throughout the game, Patrick was doing what he needed to do. If that's what the Giants were giving. But on the flip side, I think there was more there, and I think Patrick was going between the extremes, back and forth, and not hitting guys who were actually open at some point. And so, it was really, I think that's the best way to describe it, because it was just Jackal and Hyde. It was like between the two extremes. And so it wasn't, even when the offense was moving and we were handing the ball off, we were just repeatedly doing it, right? There wasn't successful balance throughout the game. It wasn't like when we were playing against Tennessee and they were having balanced drives where they were running it 10 times and passing it 10 times and going all the way down the field. It was all just one extreme or the other. And so, it's hard because there were some good plays, there were some things that they should have learned from this game that they're doing well and they can build off of offensively. But really, a lot of it's going to come down to Patrick's consistency. I don't know what Kafka's doing with him. I don't know what Reed is doing with him. I don't know if I don't know if they all just kind of got lazy, like the three of them, Andy, Patrick and Kafka just kind of got lazy and was like, we don't, this is a fine oiled machine. We don't need to fine tune it at all. We can just kind of leave it on its own. Well, clearly, if that's what they thought, they were wrong. But I don't know. There's just a lot there. I thought special teams played a lot better. It's hard for me to fault Kemp on that one play because I thought it looked fairly clean on his part. And so I think all in all, special teams looked good. Defense looked better. Offense in some ways looked better, but I think they have to be a lot more consistent moving forward. And, I could say more, but we'll kind of get to that later on. And so those are kind of my thoughts. You got anything you want to add to that or respond to?
Yeah. On Toxic Tuesday, what I was gonna say was, let's lay off Beach. Aside from Brown probably playing out of position in this particular system, I'm not saying that he's not a Pro Bowl tackle. I think he's out of position in this system. Tooney, Creed, Smith, and Niang look like the real deal. I mean, Tooney's the elder statesman on this line. We're going to have them for some years. That's going to be really, really good. I hope CEH was watching how Derek Gore was running because that's how he needs to run. It was good to see Jones back inside a lot, creating havoc where he needs to be. Heck, even Frank got a sack. It ain't worth $20 million, Frank, but one's better than zero, so we'll go with that. I think what you said is true. I think Mahomes has PTSD. I think his footwork, he's got happy feet. He's scared to be in that pocket. Even if it's clean, he's escaping out the side when he shouldn't be. He's not looking to his second and third reads. He's locking on Tyreek, and he's chucking the ball. He wants to get out of his hands. He's scared to stand in there. And he's got other reads who are open consistently. Yeah, I think I'm with you. I think that's pretty much it.
Yeah, and I mean, really, there's so much, but it's just, I think it's one game first off, and that's both a positive and negative. But I mean, there are so many things and there's a lot of things that we've been saying for a long time that, a lot of other people are coming around to, whether locally, nationally, on this channel or whatever, just like all around. There's things that we've been talking about. I think that, there's a lot of things we don't have to even say, right? Like talking about Sorensen and Neiman should not be on the field, like basically ever. Like if they're coming out, they should just be bringing a bottle of water during a timeout.
Now
I'm not sure.
And we have been saying a lot of things. We were discussing doing a compilation of stuff that we were saying before even some of our staff mates were even saying. That's why we're the number 2 show on this network, guys, because we're outside the box and we see and say the things that we see. And it may not be the popular opinion, but it's true opinion. I mean, it's everybody's entitled to their own. It's different. Me and Stevie have been fans of Chiefs for a long time, and Stevie watches film. Stevie watches the game. He watches it, replays the play in real time while the game is still going on, and I see what I see. I've dealt with football for a long time, so it's we're not being haters or toxic or we don't want to tear this team down. We love this team. We're just trying to figure out what went wrong. And quite honestly, if you want to be honest with us, I think, and we were just talking about this, and I'm rambling for a second, but you put on a graph on the Discord, which if you're a member or not a member, join the Discord because we have a lot of good stuff in there, and most of the team is in there. About Patrick Mahomes' EPA for the last 3 years, and you notice it went down after the Super Bowl. You were saying that since the Super Bowl, I think it started going down, and a lot of people aren't going to want to hear this, but after Nagy left, I think he was the last coach that held Mahomes accountable for his footwork and being patient in the pocket. Not saying that Andy doesn't, but Andy's running a team, which is why he has a quarterback's coach and an offensive coordinator and an offensive line coach, because he has to run a team, that whole building. And so I think Mahomes has gotten a free pass from Kafka because he was so good early, and there's nobody, I don't want to say humbling him because he's a humble kid, but I think there's no word we use all the time, keys accountability.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's a big problem with this team is nobody's being held accountable. Now, true enough, Mahomes has 10 interceptions. I think they said 6 of them were off the hands or bodies of Chiefs receivers that should have caught it. But even still, I mean, here's the question. Is he putting too much on it? Is he hurt and he can't step into his throws to be more accurate? Why is he not protecting the ball like he should? I mean, all these things are – he lost another one. We're just lucky that Trey Smith found it. It's just I don't know what it is, but guys, coming into the rest of the season, the Chiefs have the hardest schedule in the NFL. And if we play like we did against the Giants, it's going to be an ugly year. I don't want it to be, but it's if they go 0-3 in the next 3 games, the season's over.
Yeah, and you're right. By the current winning percentage, we have the hardest remaining schedule by the current winning percentage, and so it definitely isn't going to be a cakewalk. If this team continues to get better, then that will help us. It also helps. It also helps that most of our division games are at the end of the season, and so we're getting a couple extra weeks or so to get things figured out, and we could still end up winning the division somehow just because we've only played one divisional game, and even after the next 2 weeks, we'll still have only played one divisional game, and so there's some buffer in there, but there's still, like we don't have to beat Green Bay, we don't have to beat the Cowboys, but when we play our divisional opponents, we are going to have to beat them if we're going to have a shot to win our division. And it's not that we have to, but if we don't, clearly winning our division would be would almost be the easier path than trying to take our chances of sneaking in my opinion. Just with like all the parity in the AFC seemingly this year, but I could be wrong on that. As to the EPA graph, I don't remember who posted it on Twitter, but when we shared that in the Discord, someone said, because I pointed out like the drop, and it's like a serious spike, happened before the Super Bowl, and someone said they thought it was the Saints game, and they could absolutely be right on that. The interesting thing on there, and this is me trying to find the balance, right, between being optimistic and realistic, not pessimistic, is that the actual chart, there's a line there, and it's like, this is Mahomes' average. And the spike that's down here is actually like a sliver right above the line that's NFL average quarterback. So even as bad as this has been, like his EPA hasn't even dropped below NFL average yet, which is kind of amazing, I guess. Like if this is his floor, is an NFL average quarterback, like that's kind of insane. And so, that's a positive, um, there to me. But yeah, I think some of these things we saw, we want to see inside more. That's one of the things we argued at the time of the move. And I think at that time we were still members only. But one of the things that we were arguing, or at least I was, is for me it's all about interior pressure, not edge pressure. If you look at Brady, if you look at the great quarterbacks, they get the ball out in 2.5 seconds or under. Like, unless you have Tyreek at edge, generally, unless you have an absolutely terrible left tackle or right tackle, you're not getting pressure on the quarterback in 2.5 seconds or so. And so, that's one of the reasons why I originally said I didn't like this move, because Chris Jones is your best pass rusher, and he was doing it at interior as an interior pass rusher, and to me that's the most effective place to have your pass rush, from the interior. Get quick interior pressure, because the moment you do that, the quarterback is going to try to leave the pocket, and the moment they do that, guess what? Exactly what happens to Mahomes oftentimes is what's going to happen to them. Their left tackle or right tackle isn't going to be able to stop your defenders on the edge from getting to their quarterback, unless your edge defender just utterly gives up contain and plays like an idiot. Um, and this kind of leads into kind of another point, in that talking about Brown, there are clearly some plays that he has looked bad. That Titans game, there were at least two or three plays, right off the top of my head, where it was like instantaneous. He was beat, and there was absolutely, it had nothing to do with technique. It had nothing to do with Patrick. It was, he just got whipped off of the snap, and like plain and simple. That said, though, for every one of those plays, and those are the plays that stick in our mind, right? As fans, those are the plays that stick in our mind. But that doesn't mean he's doing that every time. That doesn't mean every time that it looks like a pocket is broken down, or every time that Patrick leaves the pocket and starts to scramble, it's because he's given up because Brown or someone's given up pressure. A lot of those times it's a clean pocket, and Patrick, he's either a clean pocket and Patrick is either not stepping up to it, or he's leaving for no reason. Or two, I think part of it is the deep drops that he was taking. Like, you can't expect a guy like Brown to be able to drop back on the vertical sets like that and be able to protect Patrick when he's dropping back so far, and he's already back in shotgun to begin with. Like, I don't know if that would be something, if Patrick doesn't get this, that they would start doing to just try to give Brown a little help, is putting Patrick back under center, so that instead of Patrick being 5 yards behind and Brown having to drop back even farther, now Patrick's on the line of scrimmage, and it gives, Brown some kind of handicap. I don't know if that would help. But one thing that would help, and one play sticks out in my mind where Patrick had a completely clean pocket, and it was in the red zone, and Travis had just broken free, and he started to run over the middle. And at that point, he was completely open. Patrick, instead of started darting to the left. The moment he did that, it became a race between him and the defender, and there was no way Orlando Brown is fast enough to get in between them. But you know what? If Patrick stays in the pocket, he's completely fine. And you know what? If Patrick doesn't run to the edge there, he can move over a little bit. But if he stops behind Brown and lets Brown engage the guy to have a chance, That's going to be a much more successful opportunity for the Chiefs than him just trying to sprint out around an edge. And he wasn't the faster guy that time. And I believe that's the play he ended up taking a huge sack on. It was like, I think it was I could be confusing it, but I think it was a 3rd and 8 play or something in the red zone. I could be way off on that, but it was definitely in the red zone. And Travis was coming across the side and Patrick bails. So these are the kinds of things, like, they all add up. And so, we've kind of already went into the next topic, which was correcting narrative. So we might as well just stay with it and keep going, because these are like all the narratives that I've been hearing. Like, it's all the offensive line. Patrick needs a great offensive line. Well, there are plays like the ones I talked about with the Titans, but then a lot of the other times it's Patrick. And so, that's like a narrative that needs to be corrected. Go back, rewatch pause it. Be looking at it. Be watching what Patrick is doing. Like, it's an easy narrative to correct. And then, you have one of the other ones is the receivers aren't getting open. We need more receivers because it's just Tyreek and Travis, and the other guys aren't getting open. And that's utterly false. Like, it's utterly false. If you go back and you watch it, you can identify on most every play somebody who's wide open, or at least was at one point, and Patrick doesn't even see them, or he starts scrambling, and by the time he sees them, they're covered now, or the defender's closing in. And so, there's these different narratives in here that I think that we need to correct ourselves on. I have more, but I'm going to go ahead and let you, Gooch, go ahead. If you have any narratives you want to talk about here or anything, what I already said.
I think the coaching narrative that, first of all, Andrew Reid doesn't need to be fired. He's not going to get fired. The dude is a Hall of Fame coach. I think even I was a rush to this has got to be bad coaching. Here's the thing. And because I was mostly speaking about tackles and missed tackles and everything, but the NFL Players Association put it in their deal with the NFL that there were only going to be so many practices and so many hitting practices. So you can't really take the time to reteach the fundamentals of tackling to these professional athletes. You just kind of have to go. I also think that most of the coaching issues are really player issues that look like coaching issues because Patrick is uncomfortable. He's got the yips, PTSD, whatever. I think people aren't running their routes as crisp as they used to. I think Ryan had it right. I think these guys are tired. I think the grind of back-to-back AFC Championship games, Super Bowl, and now this season, I think the grind has taken the fire from them. And I think they've tuned out because they've heard the Golden State Warriors talk, turn it on for the playoffs, yada, yada. The problem is, I think the real narrative is this team is either soft. I'm not calling them soft as men. Soft as in team, the fire, soft. Because Tampa Bay was saying they were physically and mentally soft in the Super Bowl. And teams aren't scared of the almighty Chiefs anymore. Like, no one's scared to kick field goals against us because now, can we even put up 17? It used to be the narrative when the Chiefs get on the field, you guys score touchdowns because they're going to blow you out the water. It's not happening. We're struggling. I think what this team needs is some self-reflection. I think they're being humbled. They're definitely being humbled right now. But they got to figure it out. I don't think it's coaching, except on Spags' part. I really do think Sorensen and Neiman need to be clipboard carriers. But that would probably be the only coaching narrative I'd give them. The receivers are getting open, like you said. Oh, the receivers aren't getting open. Gordon and Pringle are open on almost every pass play. Patrick's getting locked in because he's trying to get rid of the ball. He wants the big play. He wants it. It's in his genetic makeup. It kills him to throw short, to take what the defense gives him. Even though the defense wants him to throw long, he can't help himself. They were probing the big play all night long. They had one or two good shots at it, which is really for any good quarterback, even Brady, great quarterbacks, Aaron Rodgers, you only really get one or two of those a game. Ever. We got lucky in the beginning. It was bombs over Baghdad when Mahomes started. But the great ones only get one or two, and you have to pick your spots. It's really all I gotta say. Give Brown some credit. He went from blocking for a quarterback who didn't fall back, his only way was forward. So all he really had to do was basically run block because it's Lamar. So you block him for a couple seconds, but you know Lamar's not going to be back there. If it's not open, Lamar's going to take off. Mahomes starts 5 yards back and then drops to 15. There is not a single tackle, not even Eric Fisher, who is that good, that can push a defensive edge 15 yards upfield to keep him from touching your quarterback. None. There's not a single one. So, yeah, he's got beat. Ryan even said he gets beat with speed, especially if you're super quick. But no NFL tackle, in the end also, no NFL tackle has tackle position in the NFL is already one of the hardest jobs to do. I believe on the Chiefs, it is the hardest position in the NFL because of who our quarterback is. And maybe, like you said, Keys, if he started under center more, you'd help him out. You'd help everybody out. Maybe they'll teach him to stay in the pocket. But that's it. That's all I got on that.
All right. Well, I'm going to try to remember everything you said to hit on some stuff. I think as far as tackling, I think one of my biggest rebuttals would be like there are 32 teams. Not all the teams have problems with their players being able to tackle. Like, with the collective bargaining agreement limiting that, some teams are not having that same problem. So what is it about our defense, the way that we're coaching defense, right? Because it has to be a coaching issue to some extent. Like that our players are not able to continue to be sharp when it comes to tackling, and yet there are other teams that don't have an issue with it, right? Like there are other teams who don't have an issue with it. So it's like everybody, because of the CBA, it's an equal opportunity for everyone, but the results aren't the same. And so what is it about that? First off, second off, as far as coaches, I'm not, and I'm not saying fire anyone, but I'm more closer to the other side on this because, even if it's a player issue, it's still a coaching issue. Like if this player or that player is not doing what they need to do, Sorensen, Neiman, it is imperative on the coach to take them out of the game, to stop giving them snaps. It's the coach's responsibility to put them in positions to succeed. And if the coaches are doing that and they're still failing, yes, that's on the player. But then if they continue to fail, then it's then on the coach, right? Like there's shared responsibility, but it begins with the coach and it ends with the coach. Put the player in position to succeed. And if the player is still not succeeding, take them out of the game and stop playing them until they start showing that they can be in a position to succeed. Unless we're talking about Sorensen versus Thornhill, then Thornhill should just start no matter what.
Agree.
kind of a joke. But, I think there's also with the coaching thing, though, I think, yeah, we've talked about extremes before. And, on one side, yes, it's true. There is a lot about football that we do not know that the coaching staff knows. I learn more that I don't know, and I'm not saying I learn more. I'm saying I learn more that I don't know every day. Every day I read something on Twitter by defense masterminds or whatever, or I watch a YouTube video, or I read an article, and I learn how much more I don't even know. But at the same time, there's a disconnect, right? Because there are things that we were saying weeks ago about this defense, the fans were seeing, that Spags wasn't seeing, that the coaching staff apparently wasn't seeing. And now you have national people saying it, right? And it's not like it's just us versus the coaching staff and people who played semi-professional ball who have rings on their finger. We're talking now about national people like Peyton Manning calling out Dan Sorensen. Like, and we talked about this during the Picks Pool chat, but if you are going to tell me, okay, Spags has 2 Super Bowl rings, he's been an NFL coach for so long, he was an NFL head coach, etc. Trust him. And my choice is between trusting Spags or trusting Peyton Manning, who, as you said, spent his career picking off defenses. Which one am I going to pick? It's not going to be Spags' word. It's going to be Peyton Manning's word. And so, at some point, we have to find a balance, people. Like, it shouldn't just be fire everybody, but at the same time, the Kool-Aid snorting of trust everybody no matter what, give them all kinds of room to continue to screw up, give them all kinds of room. You should just blindly follow them because of their past. No, I'm not going to do that. Like, there can be a balance between the two, right? And part of this show is predicated on telling the truth as we see it and trying to stay away, at least for me, trying to stay away from one extreme
At least
or
for
the
you.
other. And at least for me, trying to stay away from one extreme or the other and try to find, that middle ground in there. Like, if I give a negative, I'm trying to find a positive. If I give a positive, I'm still being realistic and pointing out, other issues there. And so it's like a lot of us saw the Sorensen stuff coming. A lot of us saw the Neiman stuff coming. I have been asking for weeks now why we can't just put DOD in, and no matter how bad he looks, it really can't be much worse than what you're getting out of Neiman. Like, Neiman's ceiling, like, I don't know what DOD's floor is, but it certainly can't be much lower than Neiman's ceiling. And the same with Watts over Sorensen. Like, we're at this point now. And I've been asking for weeks, why can't we see more DOD, or saying I'd rather see DOD over a 31, 32-year-old Sorensen who doesn't, or excuse me, over a Neiman who isn't making plays, who, I mean, he can't shed a block for anything. It was really difficult to watch him getting manhandled in this game against the Giants and pretty much every other game he's played this season. And Sorensen seems to be getting progressively worse. And people who've been on this channel for a while would know I defended Sorensen the last 2 years. Okay? Not blindly, but at least pointing out, hey, like, the guy still makes, yeah, whatever, Gooch. Like, the guy still makes plays. He still makes plays. And he was having his one clutch play a game. He's no longer making plays. He's no longer good for, I don't think he's made one clutch play this season. Now, I know Dirty Thunder
I,
say, well, he chased down, who was it, Diggs in the Bills game? Yeah, after he blew his assignment. I don't count that as a
now,
clutch play.
now, Sorensen has made clutch plays.
For the other team.
Ingram hadn't scored a touchdown in 17 games. He got to score one yesterday. He's probably the only safety in league history that while he was covering a route, ran toward the bench to get him some water, and then tried to recover his man on 2 different occasions. These are clutch. It takes we're not members anymore. So we're gonna stop that comment right there. But it was super clutch.
Right now, just to prove I know what I'm talking about, I'm going back.
Hang on before you put the glasses on. We put Keys did it, and I'm sure he's probably about to talk about this. I'll probably beat him to it. I'm sorry. Up to yesterday's game, Dan Sorensen had given up over 300 yards in coverage, which I believe is more yards than anybody else in coverage on the Chiefs defense. And I'll let Keys finish it because he's putting on his glasses, and I knew I must have taken it. Go ahead, Keys.
Not at all. What I was going to say was that the way Sorensen's been playing, and he is on a cheap salary this year. The way Sorensen's been playing, he's playing like he knows he's going to retire, and he has a little side action with other teams going on where he's gambling to save up for his retirement fund. Yeah,
no.
You're right. And what you're saying came out of part of the Discord chat from Monday Night Football. I believe it was Bill or what does he go by? New York Chief or something like that. Sorry for butchering that. But I believe he was the one who pointed out, like, all I did was I think he's even the one that asked, how many yards has Sorensen given up this year? And I looked up the stats for receptions and yards, and it went up after Monday Night Football, I think by about 60 or 70 yards, if I recall correctly. But yeah, he has over 300 yards given up, and Bill is the one who took the time to look and say, hey, look, if you take those yards away, and again, I'm not saying you can flat out just take yards away, right? Because if Sorensen wasn't on the field, we don't know for sure that his replacement or somebody else wouldn't have given up some yards. But it's still interesting that if you take those yards completely out and take out the touchdowns he's given up, and it's over like 300 yards and 2 touchdowns. If you take those out, our defense is like somewhere between 10 and 15. Like our pass defense is right there with the Broncos, the Cowboys, and the Bears. And that's just insane to think about. Like just taking Sorensen out of coverage, taking away the yards and touchdowns he's given up, make us comparable to like the Bears or the Cowboys or the Broncos in pass defense. It's just insane. Do we have any other narratives that we need to correct?
Nope. I think we covered that. And I know it's going to go wild in the chat on Sorensen. Ooh, I can't wait to read these comments. He's looking at you, Dan.
Sometimes I've wondered, and both guys are actors, and both guys are funny men, and both guys are entertaining, and both guys have a big heart. And I've really started to wonder if Thunder Dan isn't Ashton Kutcher and we're all being punked. Like, I'm really, like, Dan is just defending the undefensible because he's punking us. Maybe Dan is a super nice guy and he's just going to Dirty Dan's defense because at this point there isn't really a defense, and so he's just trying to back a wounded animal, which was really sweet. And so if that's the case, Dan, tip of the hat to you. But again, as someone who defended Sorensen and will still defend Sorensen when he makes a good play. I haven't defended him this year though because he hasn't made one. He really hasn't made one. I don't count tracking down a guy that you allowed a blown coverage to. Listen, I guess if I want to be positive, yeah, I admire the hustle. That's the ultimate. Okay, I screwed up. Now I'm running 60 yards downfield to make up for my screw up, and I'm going to tackle this guy before he scores. Yeah, there's totally something admirable in that. And so, yeah, there's some truth there. Would I rather he not give up the play to begin with? Yeah, absolutely. But yes, I will commend Sorensen for chasing the guy down and making the tackle before the end zone. That took a lot of heart. I'm guessing Diggs just really thought he had the touchdown, because clearly if it was a foot race, those guys, it's not a contest. And so I will publicly here say, Dan's hustle and heart after he completely screwed up was absolutely admirable. And so it was really awesome to see. I wish all the rest of the guys had that same fire when they screwed up. And I guess I could go the extra mile and say Sorensen stays off of Twitter, and I don't know if it's a good thing or a bad thing that he doesn't feel the need to back up his game off the field. Clearly he doesn't back his game up on the field most of the time. But in any case, now we're kind of getting into Horace Grant's rants. So maybe we should just go ahead and move on here.
Nope, I'm not moving on, because here's the thing, and I'm gonna point some things out, because my boy Keys, I said it in the Rogue Life. If you haven't seen it, you should go watch it. Keys, Ryan, Dan, super nice. Me, I'm for all the smoke. And the narrative was, oh, well, Sorensen doesn't care about looking bad on the Jumbotron. Here's the problem. He doesn't care because it's already happened. All that hustle, all that heart to go tackle a guy that you let run free to begin with doesn't mean diddly to me, because that's 50, 60 yards that you just gave up. So instead of being on their own 40, they're now on our 20. I don't care about none of that. You screwed up. You shouldn't see the light of day, or at least on the field. You shouldn't see the field play. I don't care about your heart. I don't care about your hustle. I'm just, and I know somebody in the comment of the last one said, are you guys going to bury the hatchet? And I'm going to put this out right now, as we're not attacking Thunder Dan at all. This is me and Keys defending what we have been saying since the preseason. And for me, since last year. So we'll gladly bury the hatchet. I will, the second he goes on his Chiefs chat and says, you know what, I was wrong about Sorensen. Those boys might have been right the whole time. Dead. But until then, I'm going in every single Friday on top of other topics. Now we can move on. Thanks, Keys.
Yeah, I don't know about that. I'll still give him props for chasing the guy down. That's better than just standing and watching Diggs score, right? I mean, doing something even after you mess up, is still better than doing nothing. And so I'll take that over some of the other play that I've seen on the team. And I'll still give him that. And I'm not surprised that you don't care about Hart because you're a Grinch. So,
I am.
you are a Grinch, and so yeah. Again, I do admire the Hart when you mess up, the hustle to run down there and to make the play after you didn't make the play the first time. Now, that said, that was a few weeks ago, and this time, in this last game, you commit defensive pass interference, and then you don't even have to run to stop the receiver from catching the ball after you already gave them a free first down on the penalty, and you don't even stop the guy from catching the ball. Listen, you already drew the flag. You got to stop the guy from catching the ball. You got to do it. You can't do both. You can't both give up the catch and the penalty. It's just frustrating. And listen, I don't know about hatches, and I don't know about burying them. I only know this. Thornhill was getting blamed for messing up a coverage against the Redskins. I'm sorry, the Washington football team. Are we going to have to edit that out? Is YouTube going to flag us because I said the other name for
The
Washington
R word.
football team? The R word. Thunder Dan blamed Thornhill. Didn't know what his role was, but blamed Thornhill, went out of his way to blame Thornhill, and to do it to justify why Thornhill wasn't playing over Dirty Dan. And he was utterly wrong. And all the national media and other people pointed it out. I got nothing to say to that until you come out and say that you were wrong. That's all there is to it.
And I'm the Grinch, ladies and gentlemen. Let's go on before Keys goes off on another rant.
All right. We will beat the Packers if...
Now, the toxic guy in me, as a longtime supporter of this team, I'm going to dip into my toxicity, and I'm going to say the Chiefs win if Aaron Rodgers gets COVID-19. No. I don't wish COVID-19 on Aaron Rodgers. That guy is probably the greatest thrower of the football I've ever seen, not named Dan Marino or Patrick Mahomes. Watching that guy play most games, if it's not against the Chiefs, is a master class in football. I will say that. I believe the Chiefs win this game if we limit the turnovers. We're averaging about 3 a game. If we can cut it to 1 for the Packers game, I think if the defense shows the same kind of effort. Now, we've been hard on the defense, but the defense has showed up in the second quarter of these last few games, albeit usually the offense is struggling, so it doesn't look good, and we're quick to blame the defense, but they showed up last night. They showed up in the second half last week, and they showed up against the I almost said it too, the football team in the second half. So adjustments are being made. Sometimes it looks like they still don't know their roles, but for the majority of the time, they're coming around. So I really think if Patrick can stay in the pocket and not get angst or anxious or whatever, and we limit the turnovers, as much as I want to say this team is done for, we haven't seen this team yet. I don't know if we go with the boss's theory, if we go with Ryan's theory and they're tired, which I wholeheartedly agree. They're probably just now waking up. It's a long season and a short off season. And then Mahomes had his baby. and I think he got married, and he's one of the faces of the league, and he did the voting thing. He organized the COVID-19 thing. He organized the Black Lives Matter thing, or helped. I just think the kid is, most of them are weary, and the laws of attrition are catching up to them. They're playing, when they play, I guess 16 games, 19 games to get to the Super Bowl. Is that right? First round bye, divisional, 20 games, 19 games. Yeah.
Are you talking about the past?
Yeah.
Previous seasons? Yeah.
Yeah. And if it's 19 games, that's 38 games in 2 seasons. When most of the teams we're playing are playing 16 to 17. So we've probably got a 4 or 5 game extra that we've been playing. Some of these guys, have been here the whole time. By the end of this year, they're going to be almost a half a season more than their peers. So if their bodies haven't fully healed, weren't healing, and now they're still taking the bumps and bruises, it might take a while for them to feel normal. This could be the game. So that's my take. If the Chiefs limit the turnovers from 3 to even 1, they don't have to be perfect, because, any given Sunday and the ball bounces funny. But if they can cut it to 1 and they can be consistent in their play calling, run at the goal line instead of trying to be fancy, we win this game. And I think it shocks a lot of people. Go Chiefs.
Yeah, I would be surprised. Clearly before this season we wouldn't be, but I would be surprised if they can turn the ball over more than once and still win this game. And even one turnover, I think that is partly predicated on both the defense playing at a higher level than they had been, and the offense playing at a higher level than they had been. Because if you don't get those things, I'm not even sure they can afford one turnover. And so, I think we got to see one of those two things, like both actually. Like, if they turn the ball over at all, we have to see like a higher level of play from the offense and defense in this game than we've been seeing. I think we also have to see a lot more consistency from the offense, especially Patrick, and the play calling, right? If we see more runs, we see more, if we see quicker checkdowns, right? Because right now it seems like, I believe Patrick is reading like deep to shallow. Like if he hits guys quicker, and there's at least 1 or 2 plays I know in the Discord I was sending like the screenshot to people, like right after the snap of the ball. I think it was Pringle on one play. And yeah, I think it was Pringle on the play that he threw to Tyreek on the right side. That it was like, I think it was like 3rd and long, if I'm recalling correctly. No, it was like, yeah, it wasn't too long. But it was the play that he missed Tyreek on the side. And I think that was the play. And right off the bat, I believe it's Pringle. He has him right on the left flat. And there is nobody around. I mean, like, the closest defender, like, there's no cornerback there within 10 or 15 yards. Even the linebacker is somewhere else, like, the closest defender to him. Like, it would have taken a defensive lineman to come chase down Pringle, a crossover, to get him. Like, he had the first down plus. Patrick being Patrick, taking a shot at Tyreek on this same play that they showed from the Titans game, I believe. Only it was on the left side on that time, and Patrick had missed Tyreek, if I recall it correctly. He'd missed that he was open. He abandoned too early, right? I watched the ESPN2 feed, and I think that Peyton was like pointing that out. They ran the same play, but it was on the opposite side. But in this case, he had Pringle on the left flat. There wasn't anyone around. like he clearly had a first down plus. And this was on third down, and we take the shot to Tyreek, and Patrick, his accuracy was off. So, like, Tyreek had no chance to catch it. And so, this is just one example. If we see Patrick actually be consistent and not get too bored in this game, be consistent, and we see them stick with the run and be consistent with that, and do the things that they were doing well, because they started off until the interception. The offense started off super well. They looked like a fine-oiled machine that was handling the defenses they've been seeing for the last 7 weeks the right way. If they can come out like that and they can sustain it, and they can have a good run balance in there, feed Gore the ball, run more power stuff, do all these things, and stop tipping the ball, stop fumbling the ball, stop with the interceptions, I think the offense can go toe-to-toe with the Packers' offense, regardless of what the two respective defenses do. Just like in the old days. And so, in the old days, it's only last year, but just like in the old days, defensively, I think we got to see Chris Jones inside. We got to see Bolton and Gay still on the field on third downs. Got to see it. Got to see less of Sorensen unless they're going to use him to blitz. If they use him to blitz most of the game and just to throw a curveball, they show blitz and have him drop back into his own, I'm okay with that. But otherwise, he shouldn't be in pass coverage at all in this game. I don't want to see Neiman in, like, getting pushed around by blockers or trying to tackle people or tackling people for the second time when they're already down. And so, like, I think that these are kind of huge things. They need to figure out their cornerback rotation. They need to figure out who's going to play the slot, who they like on the outside, stop moving people around so much. I know Dan or Ryan talked about Snead trying to learn too much and talking about, between moving him outside in the slot. I still think over the long haul, like in the slot, using him very creatively, would be the most beneficial. But, if right now they just need to move him one place so he can focus on it and get back to a high level, then that's what they need to do. So for me, these are most of like the keys. And I know I just named a bunch of things, right? But the Packers are a really good team. And so the way we've been playing, we just haven't looked like it. So I think that there are at least a handful of these things are things we have to see if we're going to be in this game. But, on the one hand, I don't want to say, because there's people out there who predict a blowout every week, right? Until the Buffalo game, including the Buffalo game, until after the Buffalo game, there were guys out there who were predicting a blowout every single week. This year, last year, the year before, every week is just going to be a blowout. We're going to blow out the Bills 41-10 or something like that, right? I don't remember what the ridiculous scores were. And so I rarely ever would predict a blowout, and I'm not calling one in this game either way. Like, my belief is, even when you're going up against a bad team, any given Sunday, and I've had people make fun of me for that, but guess what? What did we see with the Jets on Sunday? Right? It might sound cliche, but most cliches are cliches because they're true. And so any given Sunday, basically, one team can beat another, no matter how bad the one team is and no matter how great the other team is. Sometimes we excuse it away and just say this team overlooked the other team. Well, that could be the case. But the reality is that anything can happen on a given Sunday. So I guess the last part for me is how well the coaches do this week, both in their game plan, preparation, and the way they attack the issues that the players are having throughout this week. I think is going to be a big part of this as well. right, we're ready to revisit this. You want to update your record prediction? The two of us, I believe, and again, we were probably still members only at that point. We predicted somewhere between like 12-5 and 14-3. Well, clearly 3 and 4 losses are gone. I mean, it would take a miracle that 12-5 is statistically possible. Do you want to update your record prediction?
Yeah. I think I had them going 14-3. Well, obviously they've got 4.
We're both at 11-6 now, updated from you were at what? 13-4, 12-5, 14-3. Yeah, somewhere in that range. All right, let's hit this last one for Avery, then we're going to call it a night here. I mean, I don't think we need to spend too much time on it. We were talking, and I know Gooch briefly mentioned it at the end last week. Is there anyone that you wish we had taken at those spots instead? And is there anyone you wanted us to take at a spot, and now you're glad we didn't?
I said last week Cornell Powell, right arms. Cornell Powell, Noah Gray, because I haven't seen anything out of him, and I picked him up to be Travis Kelce light. And believe it or not, Clyde. Nope, Clyde wasn't in this draft. Honestly, I probably wouldn't have traded the pick for Brown because I think we could have got Trayvon, couldn't we? Diggs. So if I'm weighing Brown versus Diggs at this point, I got to say Diggs if you weren't going to get a left tackle. And maybe that's because Brown is underwhelmed right now and he turns out to be the stud that he's been in Baltimore. But if not, I mean, there's that. But honestly, quite honestly, Cornell Powell and Noah Gray, we could have used those picks to get anybody else. We could have packaged those picks and moved up, could have packaged those picks and got, I mean, who is that just got traded for a 6th rounder just today?
Ingram. Yeah. Melvin Ingram.
There's somebody else too. Oh crap! Who just got traded?
Oh,
Von Miller.
Oh,
No, Von
yesterday.
Miller for a 5th and a 6th or a 4th and a 6th.
No, that was yesterday, and it was a 2nd and a 3rd. So for me, you know, it's hard. I'm going to answer this the best way I can now. But for me, I would agree with you that at this point, I would almost, in some sense, rather that we hadn't traded for Brown and kept that pick, because we could have taken Owa ourselves at 31, and actually had a pass rusher on the defense, and I think that would have been more beneficial. You know, in some sense, I think preferably if we didn't get him, we could have traded back. You know, there was plenty of guys there in the late 40s or early 50s. I mean, JOK at number 52, you know, would have been great. I would love to have JOK, Bolton, and Gay as our linebackers. Um, and I'm trying to look here. I know that there were some receivers out there like Terrence Marshall that we could have had around the Bolton pick as well. And so, you know, to be honest, these were some guys like I was not thrilled with Bolton at that pick. And, mainly because athletically and having looked at the matrix and stuff, you know, I didn't want to take someone who was lacking there, was not like a complete athletic linebacker at this pick in the second round. And so some of these guys, could have been to me, would have been a better pick at this time, at that time than taking Bolton, and again saying there's some guys that I probably would have liked better um, as well in the first round instead of Brown. And so for me, I would probably go that way. And really, that's about it. Looking at the list, well, I take that back. Um, I was really a Meinert's guy over Humphrey. And so I was really disappointed with that too. And so, after that, there might have been some guys I liked as kind of lottery ticket guys in the later rounds when we took Cornell Powell or Noah Gray. But I don't remember who they would have been. Like looking at the list of who was drafted in those areas, like I can't say, I'd rather have this guy instead. If we had filmed this at the very beginning of the season, and we're only 8 weeks in, but if we'd filmed it at the very beginning of the season, I probably would have stuck with not wanting Bolton. And, I'm still kind of iffy. I'm being honest here. Unlike Thunderdan talking about Sorensen and Thornhill, I'm being honest here. So cut me some slack. I mean, and he's a Mizzou guy, and I'm an Iowa guy. So
we're waiting on that apology,
I mean,
Thunder.
We are. I would still like to hear, or I would still like to see that Bolton, can definitely play all three downs, and he has that athleticism. Where I would have liked him to go a little bit later, pick him up a little bit later. Kind of in the same sense that I don't hate CEH, but I hate the idea of a running back in the first round. And if I was going to be okay with it, the guy would have to be super dynamic. And so those are my answers. So I'm glad. I guess I'm probably not answering this right. I guess I'm glad we didn't take Meinertz and we took Humphrey instead, to answer that question right. Um, I'm glad we took Bolton instead of Terrence Marshall or whoever it was, especially, and maybe it's recency bias, but watching Bolton stand up Derrick Henry and break his will was very fun for me. And so I've warmed up to Bolton a lot more than I would have been if we'd answered this at the very beginning of the season, which kind of goes against the spirit of Avery asking it before the season began. And so, yeah, I can't really talk on basically anyone else, whether it's Cornell Powell or Noah Gray, anyone else. Trey wasn't on my radar in the sixth round. And so, for the most part, at this point, it's kind of scary to me, but I'm really happy with the draft, with probably the exception of trading Orlando for Orlando Brown. But, I'm going to reserve further commenting until we see how things end up by the end of the season. So that's what I got.
And we all know I was a fan of Landon Dickerson. I still think was the best offensive lineman in the draft, but Creed has definitely changed my opinion on that. Still don't know if I'd have taken Bolton over Matthews, but especially since Cornell Powell flamed out. Hi, Dan. But yeah. Yeah, I think Noah Gray and Cornell will be the ones. Donate on my school. Well played, sir. Well played.
All right. Well, with that said, go ahead and send us out of here, Gooch.
Salute to all you who watch this content, whether religiously or in passing. Go back, join RGR, like, share, subscribe, hit the bell notifications. Go back, check out all the previous RGR content. Make sure you check out the live stream. It was Tuesday this week because of the Monday Night Football game, but it's usually on Mondays. Dan has film breakdown. Thursday is the Chief in the North. Make sure you subscribe to the Chief in the North newsletter. Of course, we are with you on Friday. Big Chief Sean does pre-games on the channel, so we've got a lot of content for you. Check out the RGR store. Pick up a mug, a shirt. Check us out. Make sure you tell somebody you love them. I'm serious about that. And yeah, we'll catch you in the next one.
All right. Peace, guys. Thanks.
Thanks for watching this video from the team at RGR Football. Click these videos to see more and subscribe to RGR Football.